So, do you guys remember the movie Lost in Translation? Remember that? 2003 film, written by Sofia Coppola. It was this quiet film with a tiny budget, but just huge emotional resonance. It was Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson, these two lonely souls adrift in Japan with insomnia. They kept bumping into each other in the middle of the night at the hotel bar. And they sort of stumbled into this fragile and vulnerable friendship. And one where they both finally feel valued and seen when they don't feel that in the rest of their life. It's very sweet, actually. And then suddenly, as quick as it started, it's time to leave. And they share this awkward goodbye in the lobby, and they're interrupted. It's just totally unsatisfying and incomplete. But on the way to the airport, he sees her walking on the street, stops the car, jumps out, and goes to her. And they share this moment on a crowded street in Japan. He embraces her and whispers something in her ear, but we can't hear what he said. Do you remember this part? This is a huge part of the film. In fact, we never hear what was said. It's not in the script. It was improvised. It was unheard, but unforgettable. And that whisper kind of became a little bit of a cultural sensation at the time. People were like slowing down the audio, trying to isolate what had been said. They're trying to read lips. They're posting theories. But to this day, the line remains a mystery, which is, of course, part of why it's so beautiful and powerful, because we're kind of dying to know what was said, but we'll never know. And the not knowing holds so much power and beauty. We can't solve it. All we can do is just sort of hold the mystery of it and let it open up a space of longing and imagination for us. And this is really what a mystery does. It invites us in. It holds us in tension and awakens longing within us. And what I want to suggest is that the mystery, this space of longing to know and not knowing, is actually a sacred space. It's a healthy and humanizing space where meaning isn't just handed to us. We have to work for it, hold space for it, and wait for it to slowly and quietly begin to emerge. And this is sacred space because within this mystery, the space of longing to know and not knowing is where we're most likely to have dramatic encounters with God, by holding the mystery. And it isn't easy. It's agonizing sometimes. It's irritating. But we have to learn how to hold this space of mystery. And this does not come naturally. I mean, there's a reason why millions of people every day spend time playing word games and puzzles. Every single day. Anybody play Wordle every day? Who does it every day? How about connections, mini crossword, strands? Kristen had to tell me all these things. I don't play word games. I'm terrible at them. But a lot of people do every day, and they're very satisfying in part because there's an answer. They can be solved. How many of you do the Wordle again? Raise your hand. How many of you send how many times it took you to do it to somebody else? Text them like, only took 2 today. Yeah, it's just satisfying when you find the answer. And they have a solution. We like things that are solvable. And even if you can't find it, at least you know there is one. But a mystery offers no such comfort. It poses a question with no clear answer. And puzzles are interesting. They get simpler with more information. There's a lack in the meaning category and language category. There's a missing piece. You find it, you solve the puzzle. But with a mystery, it has more meaning. It contains more meaning than we can make sense of. It gets worse with more information. There's already too much information to make sense of. And a mystery doesn't always have a resolution, which can drive us crazy, but which is also really good for us. This capacity to hold a mystery, a space of longing to know but not knowing, is worth developing because this is where God often shows up in the world. And also because, life itself isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's a mystery to be inhabited. Mystery, not as in like unknowable, but as in endlessly knowable. With every new insight, new questions emerge. And so that capacity for mystery is actually essential for growth in wisdom. Not long after his death, the poet John Keats had dinner, not after his death, not long before his death. It would be very hard It'd be hard to have dinner after death without, some serious smelling salts and a heater. So John Keats, the poet, English poet, was having dinner not long before his death with some friends, and they were discussing Shakespeare and why he was so great. And that conversation fired his imagination. He ran home and wrote this letter to his brothers, and the letter became very famous because of this little passage I want to read. It says, "At once it struck me what quality Shakespeare possessed so enormously. I mean negative capability," he said. "That is, when a man is capable of being in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason." And through this letter, Keats' letter, this idea of negative capability became a huge term in philosophy and literature. It's still used. The capacity to dwell in uncertainty and mystery without rushing to resolve it. Just resisting that temptation to force a clear meaning or resolution on a question. And instead just to dwell in this unresolved space of complexity and longing. For Keats, this was the greatness of Shakespeare. His stories and characters are immersed in these unresolvable tensions, and he didn't moralize or solve them. He just held space to try and encounter a truth that sort of lived out beyond words. He was reaching for more presence, more meaning than even the great Shakespeare could articulate. Keats said that was his genius, and that through his writing, he allowed other people to hold that space as well for the mysteries of life without imposing answers or explaining everything. He just let the world be this messy human mystery. And to his audiences, then and now, this seemed more true than writing about life as if it's a puzzle that can be solved. It's part of why art is so essential to culture, because beauty and creativity, it helps us stay in the place of longing to know but not knowing, which often then leads to real insight and wisdom and growth that we can't get to from a place of our current knowledge, just imposing our current knowledge. I love this story in part because, Keats he's such a big name. It's easy to forget. He died at the age of 25 after a long illness that was a complete mystery. Like, he was dying and had no idea why he was dying, what was killing him. Nobody did. They called it consumption. It consumed you. It's tuberculosis. He actually wrote from within the mystery of life and death, which fueled him to create these beautiful works that helped others grow in their capacity to inhabit the mystery. One of my favorite things about the church calendar is that every year, the week after Easter Sunday, we tell the story of doubting Thomas. It's every year, too. It's like the church realized long ago, if we're going to take resurrection seriously, inhabit the mystery of resurrection, we need Thomas to help teach us how to do it, how to stay in this space of longing to know but not knowing. And this is actually the space where Thomas had this dramatic encounter with God, and that led him to a profound insight that the others had really missed. For Thomas and the 12, the mystery of resurrection was a little bit like an encounter with a ghost. Maybe more than a little bit like. It was an encounter with a ghost in their thinking. This uncanny presence that disturbed the peace. Marilyn Robinson once wrote that the world is full of mystery, and that mystery is not a void, but a presence. This is actually kind of a huge idea. Mystery is not just a lack of something, a void, but a presence that haunts us because we're feeling like there's more going on than meets the eye, actually. There's a spectral presence of too much meaning in the world that we're bumping into. So it's not a void like we're just missing the last piece of the puzzle, and if we find it, it'll solve everything. Mystery is the presence of way too many pieces that don't look anything like the top of the box of the puzzle, right? They don't fit with our current image or understanding of the world. Mystery haunts us with this feeling that there's more than we can see, that we don't get what's happening around us. It's almost as if we're living inside the mystery itself. In fact, a Christian existentialist philosopher, Gabriel Marcel, he said it this way: a puzzle is something I can objectively stand apart from and solve. A mystery, by contrast, is something I am inside of. It includes me. I cannot stand apart from it. Life includes many puzzles, things we can solve without having to change and grow, but the nature of being itself, our life, it's more like a mystery we're living inside of, Marcel says. It saturates the world. We can't do anything apart from it. To be human and alive is not an objective puzzle that we can solve. Like, I can't remember who it is. It's a playwright says, you're a human being on earth. There's no cure for that. Like, you're not solving that. It is a problem. And the mystery of being, it's not external to us. We're immersed in it. We live inside this mystery. And we can never fully comprehend it. And so it fills us with this longing to know what's missing, to reach for more meaning, more life, more of being itself. And really, the heart of our tradition says that cross and resurrection take aim at nothing less than this mystery of being, to equip us to wrestle with the meaning of this life that we can never fully comprehend, and to inspire us to pursue wisdom and insight into the very nature of being itself, and to do this without fear. And this is a very big claim. The problem is, too often, religion has sort of repackaged cross and resurrection as certitude. I love this word. It combines certainty and attitude. It's like an approach to life, rooted in this illusion that life is a puzzle that has actually already been solved. So Christianity is often repackaged cross and resurrection as a certitude, a solution to the puzzle of life. And just treat it as if we have defined the meaning of life, we have found the solution to the puzzle, just get in line with our description. That's religious certitude. And it actually misses, I think, the radical impact of cross and resurrection and the impact it can have on just our everyday lives. Resurrection is not a solution to a puzzle. Not even the puzzle of what happens when we die. That misses the power of it for today as we live within the mystery of being and how God helps us to navigate these lives that often don't make sense to us. So cross and resurrection, they're actually meant to help us build Keats's negative capability, the capacity to dwell within the mystery without forcing a clear meaning or resolution on our situation. Cross and resurrection, they're meant to equip and inspire us to do the work of shalom, of peacemaking and flourishing, to become more alive by learning, in essence, how to die to self and to others without fear of being lost, just trusting that God will go through this with us. And Jesus seemed to know that everyone he encountered was wrestling with sort of the mystery of being. But we lack the insight, to make sense of our lives and the wisdom to navigate some of the challenges that we face as persons, as communities, even as just societies. And so we cling to these old ways of being that no longer work, that don't lead to life and peace. And Jesus seemed to believe that God was leading us toward new insights for living, always new, leading us to embody more of shalom and then extend that to the world. The problem is, at any given point in time, those insights are just beyond us, beyond our level or way of being, level of consciousness. And so God is always trying to lead us to a deeper level, a truer way of being. And for those new ways to take root, some old ways of being, they have to die off. This is cross and resurrection. They're meant to inspire and equip us to let that happen by promising that God will go through that with us, the death of those old ways of being, and then bring us out the other side, making us more alive, more fully human. Because at any given time, there are these huge aspects of our life that just aren't working. We have no wisdom for what to do next in this area or that. And sometimes these are just puzzles. We can find the solution and then keep going. But sometimes they're mysteries, you know? There is no easy answer or missing piece. We're bumping into things that are uncanny, that we cannot comprehend. There's meaning here. We can feel it, but we'll have to grow in order to catch it. And this is key. We have to grow as human beings beyond where we currently are in order to catch the meaning God has for us at this point in our lives. This is always going on for everyone at all times in some area of our lives. We'll have this sense that we're just missing something. There's more meaning. We're longing to know, but not knowing. Sort of stuck at an old dying level of wisdom and understanding or being that can't account for what's happening in our life right now. And so to continue on faithfully, we have to grow at the level of being. Some old stuff has to die and some new stuff has to come alive for us to flourish. And the space in which that happens is the longing to know and the not knowing, the space of mystery. Cross and resurrection are meant to help us, equip us for that project. Sometimes this is happening to us as persons. Sometimes it's just happening to our societies. In fact, I think it's happening right now in American life. I mean, huge aspects of our common life just are not working anymore. The way we've organized the world is breaking down, and it's uncanny. It's like disturbing. We have no way to theorize what's happening all around us. Like there's some spectral presence that's controlling the world and just messing with people, messing with us. And this is just the same thing I'm describing on a societal level. That old way of being that has worked for a long time is no longer capable of helping us find meaning and navigate the problems that we face. And we'll never be able to solve those problems and find a way forward without an encounter with cross and resurrection. By that, I do not mean that as a way of saying everybody just needs to become a Christian and that will solve all the world's problems. Like, a lot of the Christians are the ones who are making everything worse right now, it seems like. So to find our way forward, if life is a mystery, not a puzzle, we'll have to go through some kind of death and resurrection. Death of an old way of being and the birth of something new. This is really the heart of Christ's teaching and his ministry. Einstein was riffing on this when he said that famous line, "No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it." The problems we're struggling with in our society and our world cannot be solved at the same level of being from which we created them. We got to grow beyond where we currently are. We need deeper insights into the nature of life and the very mystery of being. We need wisdom that's beyond our current sense of what it means to be human. And the only true solutions for that situation will have to come through cross and resurrection. And you can just see this in our politics today. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. This is my problem with the language of make America great again. Because it's this promise to solve our problems by taking us back to a time before our current way of being started causing all these problems. A return to a time when it was all still working. It just can't be done. And there's a sense in which that's an attempt to solve our problems without having to go through cross and resurrection. And you could say the same thing. You could deconstruct the American left politically with the same kind of lens. We cannot solve our problems at our current level of being. That's why we feel so stuck. We can't even agree on what the problems are. humanity's current level of maturity. It just isn't ready for the new insights, the new ways of being that we're going to need in order to move forward from here. Our old ways of being, of organizing the world, are going to have to die, and something new is going to need to replace them and be born. We have to grow up, which involves learning to inhabit the great mystery of cross and resurrection, which can never be repackaged as just a way for Jesus to prove he was God or to pay some cosmic blood price for our existential guilt. Cross and resurrection reveal what God plans to do with the world, how to deal with the messes that we have made of our world and our current level of being and understanding. It's revealing what God plans to do about our brokenness, and it's not to punish us for being human or magically fix things and solve them like a puzzle or just give us some certitude that we can cling to. What God has promised to do about the brokenness that runs through each of us and every community and every human system is to transform us, to help us be born again. And the way God does this is to join with humanity at the broken places. Whatever shape our brokenness takes in our lives, whatever's killing us at a given time, if we'll stop hiding and confess it, if we'll hold it up to God and to our community, God will draw near at that broken place. And what God does is God binds God's self to us at the point of failure and weakness. And then whatever kind of death that ends up producing in our lives and in our world, God goes through it with us, promising to resurrect us on the other side, more fully alive, more fully human, with new insights for how to organize the world and live faithfully as human beings. That's resurrection. We're never actually told why Thomas isn't there when Jesus first appeared. I always wonder, was he like out having a smoke? Was he running errands? Was he just sick of everybody? We only know that he missed it when Christ appeared to the 12. And Thomas was one of them. I mean, he believed Jesus was Messiah who would come with a sword to liberate Israel. He had pledged to even fight and die if need be. But Jesus spoke of loving enemies, of welcoming the excluded. Thomas really had no category for what he was doing. It was a mystery that he just lived with for 3 years. And then Jesus was arrested and killed on a Roman cross, which was the least surprising part of it all. But it seemed sort of disorienting. You know, in first century AD, so that first century, and 50 years on either side, so in that 200-year period of Jewish history, we know of at least a dozen messiahs who rose up, or messianic movements. We know what they did, that they all talked about the kingdom of God, that they promised to do signs and wonders, and promised political deliverance. And in every case we know about, they all ended in the violent death of the key messianic figure. And when your Messiah died, you really only had two choices. You give up the movement or find a new Messiah. There's no third option. This is where Thomas was when he walked in that door and the place exploded. Thomas, we saw him. He's alive. The others had encountered resurrection, and suddenly they were ready to entertain things that still seemed impossible to Thomas. And they did entertain a whole bunch of options that Thomas was not ready to entertain. He wasn't living in the mystery yet. He was still living in a world where dead is just dead. And so what they were claiming sounded crazy. He was just like, look, I'll believe it when I see it. But then he did something I think that's really stunning. He just hung in there with them for a whole week. Like, he didn't call them nutters and leave. I mean, it had to be disturbing how convinced they were. But even at his current level of consciousness, where there was no space for what they were claiming for resurrection, he kind of just hung around in the mystery. was just beginning to happen to him. Stuck with him all week long, just kept faithing it, living in fidelity to his friends, living in that space of longing to know but not knowing. And this is where God shows up in the story. Finally, after an entire week, he was twisting in the wind for a week. Jesus appeared again, and Thomas was there this time, and he's like, Thomas, come here, my friend. Like, touch my side, touch my hands. You're not going crazy. It's okay. You can put away your doubts. You can believe. And Thomas blurts out, my Lord and my God, which was something brand new. Nobody had ever said that before about Jesus. He was the first one to recognize the divinity of Jesus in the story. I mean, this is an incredible insight. The kind that only comes after sitting with the mystery for a whole week, really longer, just kind of languishing in the space of longing to know and not knowing, believing. This is where humanity has these dramatic encounters with God. And that's what happened. When Jesus shows up, it just clicks for Thomas. This is God in human flesh. It happened in that space of longing to know and not knowing. It led to this genuine theological leap forward for the people of God. And the moment Thomas said this, a whole new world of possibilities opened up for them, for the whole world, and even for us. It has never really stopped. I mean, you and I, we live in that world. God was in Christ, inhabiting him completely, bound with Christ at the point of humanity's brokenness. And God goes through death in Christ and out the other side, refusing to let him perish, but raising him to new life. And suddenly they could see and maybe just begin to believe that if God could do this for Jesus, maybe he could do this for everyone. That God will be joined to all the broken people, the way God was joined to Christ. For those who confess their brokenness and just tell the truth about their lives, God will meet them in that place and somehow bring something new to life. For those who will die to self and to each other, God will go through that death with them and bring them out the other side a little more alive. And for the first time in their lives, they began to inhabit this whole new world of possibilities and a world of new mysteries, new levels of meaning that they weren't even ready to comprehend yet. They didn't even really understand what was happening. They just believed in it. All they could do is just keep faithing it forward, inhabit the mystery, just live in that space of longing to know and not quite knowing, trusting that this is where God always shows up. And in doing this, they taught the rest of us that part of what this means for us as the people of God, it's very difficult. It means that nothing is ever really settled for the people of God. God is constantly making all things new. At any given time, some old stuff needs to die so some new stuff can happen. And the place that this happens is among a people who are willing to inhabit the mystery of cross and resurrection, to keep living in the space of longing to know and not knowing, believing God will show up in that place, and that this is where new futures for humanity, our way forward, this is where those things are born. And our world is really struggling right now. I mean, we really need to see God show up in the world. And to me, this means that the world really needs a people who believe still in cross and resurrection, even if we can't make sense of it. Not as some certitude to solve the puzzle of sin, but as this mystery for how God can be born again in the world through us. It takes a people who trust that God is always greater than our ideas about God. That God is always beyond anything we can think or say about God. And so if we're going to have some kind of a future, some of our old ideas need to die off. I mean, this is part of what he was saying in the early part of the text that we read today when Jesus is like, look, this is always changing. And so whatever you forgive on earth I'll forgive in heaven. Whatever you don't, I won't. I mean, he just pushes responsibility for the world onto the people. He's like, I am not doing this for you. It will be constantly changing. You have to go through cross and resurrection constantly and follow the leading of God. So if we're going to have a future, some old things have to die off. And often these are ideas that we've become very, very attached to. And so they feel like part of us, part of who we are. And letting go feels like part of us is dying. And so we fight it and each other. That it's like Dallas Willard says, the self-denial that Jesus calls us to is always the surrender of a lesser, dying, petty, futile self for a greater, eternal one. That's a great sentence. It's a surrender of a lesser self for a greater one, always. But it is not a surrender that we're excited to do, unless we're being haunted by some mystery, some deep longing, unless we're confessing our brokenness and inability to see the way forward. And I honestly think the future of our world and our communities, it depends upon our willingness to take this ride. One of my favorite images for this is the difference between a sailboat and a train. Most people want faith to be like a train. Just pick your destination, get on board, never deviate from that track. You don't even have to really make that many stops. It's all forward motion to your destination. And if that's how life is, then all you gotta do really is just make sure you pick the right train. But how can you be sure? And what if you make mistakes along the way? You can't go back. I mean, these things go in one direction. What if the terrain changes? What if we run off the rails, which we will? What if the train becomes plagued by suffering and injustice and war and poverty and disease? What if people start jumping off because it seems bound for destruction? I don't think the train image works at all for the spiritual life. I think it's more like a sailboat. On a sailboat, every day you have to engage with the world. Check the winds, the currents, the weather. Even if you just want to sail in a straight line, you can't just set the rudder and go take a nap. It takes constant adjustments to the wind, the waves, the currents, the conditions, constant awareness of everything that's happening around you. And sometimes you hit the doldrums. There's no wind at all, no motion. You need other people in the boat to help you row, to keep you company, to help you find rest. And sailing is just almost by definition dealing with constant change. Your tack, your course, your approach, and what works today may not work tomorrow because the wind has changed, the currents are different. Sailing isn't just picking the right track and hitting cruise control. It's about responding to these current, adjusting conditions and just paying attention, acting, changing, growing. There's always a little mystery involved in sailing. You can't see past the horizon. You can't see below the water. You can't know everything that's headed your way or what challenges that will require of you. And there's a certain amount of mystery, I think, in the spiritual life, in a life of faith. We don't know where God's going to take us. We just live in this space of longing to know but not knowing. And the story of Thomas tells us this is always where God shows up. And it's usually a place of new insight. I mean, really new insight where we're like, this is a game changer for me. I think I'm becoming more alive because I can see this now. There's this one time Jesus was talking with an old man. And this guy was struggling with the changes Jesus seemed to be leading among the people of God. And he came to talk to him at night. And Jesus was like, look, you're never going to get this at your old level of being. You have to be born again. And the guy was like, what? And so Jesus used a different image. He said, the Spirit of God is like the wind. It just blows where it blows. And you hear it sound, and you cannot tell where it's coming from or where it's going. But for those who are alive to the Spirit of God, they just blow with the wind. They surrender to the mystery of being. And this sounds a lot like sailing to me. Our world is such a mess right now, you guys, and I know it's taking a toll on you. It is me too. And I don't know the way forward, I really don't. I only know that if it's going to be a good future, it'll have to involve cross and resurrection, which is just a mystery. And this, if that's really what's happening, then that means that Thomas is our guy. He shows the way forward. We have to just keep faithing it, stick together with one another, just live inside the mystery, this sacred, humanizing space. And keep confessing our brokenness. Don't pivot to, we got all the answers. Trust that if we'll stay in that space of mystery, of longing to know and not knowing how to go forward, that God will show up in our midst and lead us on into the future, and our world desperately needs this. Let's pray. God, we thank you for the story of Thomas, for the wisdom of the church leaders who taught us to tell this story every week after Easter. And just as we're sitting here thinking about our world, we confess what a mess we've made. We confess that our current levels of being they're not going to get the job done. I pray that in this season of Eastertide, we'll be thinking about how to live in the mystery of resurrection. That we'll have courage to surrender to it and to you. Amen.